Jake. What are you doing here at this hour? The doorbell rang, and when I opened the door, my grandson Jake was standing there, drenched in rain. Jake looked down and turned around, revealing his sister Emma asleep on his back. I gently took Emma from him. Please, give my sister dinner and let her stay the night. Jake's voice was almost drowned out by the sound of the heavy rain. Just come inside, for now. I brought Emma inside, while my husband brought Jake into the house. Seeing our grandson after 3 years, we smiled at how much he had grown. But unlike us, Jake didn't touch the meal we had prepared and kept his head down. Jake, can you tell us what happened? Jake briefly looked up, but quickly looked away when our eyes met. Jake, we won't understand anything if you stay silent. My husband, losing patience with Jake's behavior, spoke more sternly. Jake flinched, then slowly began to speak in a barely audible voice. After he finished talking, Jake gathered his courage and said, I'll only be a burden if I stay. Please take care of Emma for me. With that, Jake stood up and bolted for the door. Hey! My husband tried to stop him, but Jake, now as tall as him, shook him off. Don't be ridiculous. I can't take care of such a nuisance. Furious, my husband spat out those words, chased after Jake again, and grabbed him in a bear hug. No, please, at least take care of Emma. Jake stopped resisting and hung his head low in defeat. My name is Emily Johnson. I live with my husband, John. Looks like it's going to rain this evening. Every morning, my husband opens the newspaper while watching TV, mumbling the day's weather with a piece of bread in hand. I keep telling you, you're going to get the newspaper dirty. Read or eat, not both. You might not want to hang the laundry outside today, hon. He's not even listening to me. This is the usual scene in our household. My husband is 60, 2 years older than me, and is retiring this year. My husband is a workaholic, and he doesn't really have any hobbies. I hear some people get depressed or lose focus when they retire. You should find something else to immerse yourself in before that happens. A conversation with one of my part-time coworkers suddenly crossed my mind. So, what are you going to do next year? You'll have a lot of free time once you stop working. Yeah, I guess so. My husband glanced around the room and stared at the photo on the shelf. In it, there's a picture of me, my husband, our son Mike, his wife Rachel, and our grandchildren Jake and Emma. Everyone was smiling warmly. This photo was taken at Emma's first birthday party. How are Jake and Emma doing? My husband mentioned our grandchildren's names. I'm not sure. It's been about 3 years since we last saw our son's family. They live about an hour's drive away from us. We could easily see them if we wanted, but it seems like Rachel has been avoiding us. Ever since he got together with Rachel, Mike has been acting distant too. Every time I email saying we want to visit, they turn us down, and they never respond to our Christmas cards. Jake liked tuna, didn't he? Yeah. Jake once asked me to go tuna fishing together. What? When did they make that promise? Jake did love his grandpa, that's for sure. Memories of Jake from when he was in elementary school started flooding back. I promised Jake that once I retired, we'd have plenty of time to go fishing together. But now he's a freshman in high school, so he probably realizes catching tuna isn't that easy. John said this with a sad smile, sipping his tea. He used to visit us often, but it was clear that our relationship with our son's family changed after Mike remarried Rachel 5 years ago. Our son Mike started working at a construction company after graduating high school. There, he met a woman 4 years older who worked in the office, and they got married. They had Jake together. His first wife was calm and steady, perhaps because she was older, and she guided Mike in a positive direction. I remember being truly surprised when I saw Mike, who barely did any chores at home, effortlessly cooked us delicious soup. I was always grateful that she married Mike, but she would just smile and shake her head. Mike is so willing to learn. I'm left-handed, so when I showed him how to cut carrots with my left hand, he tried to do it exactly the same way, even though he's right-handed. Oh my. Thanks to Mike, there's never a dull moment at home. I was happy to see the three of them living such a happy life. Sorry for asking you to pick up Jake from daycare the other day. Here, I brought your favorite pickles. Oh, that's so sweet of you. But don't worry about it. I finish my part-time job by 4 p.m., so I can always pick him up. Thank you so much. She was always polite and built a good relationship with us. I thought this happy life would continue forever. When Jake was 9, his mother was diagnosed with cancer. The cancer was already advanced, and she was given only 6 months to live. I'm sorry. Please take care of Jake. She said this to me when we were alone in her hospital room. Don't apologize. I would trade places with you if I could. I felt tears welling up. These past 10 years have been so happy for me. Mike and Jake gave me a lifetime of laughter. I want them to keep smiling, and you and John too. She said this with a gentle smile. And just as the doctors predicted, she passed away quietly on a crisp autumn day. After that, it was just Mike and Jake, but since Mike was always busy and came home late, I started going to their house every day after my part-time job. If Mike was busy on the weekends, I happily took care of Jake at our house. Is there anywhere you want to go? Let's go wherever you and Grandpa want to go. Jake never asked for anything and was always observant of adults. He was always so considerate, even with us, his grandparents, and that worried me a bit. Let's make sure we keep a close eye on Jake. Yes, we should. Because of this, whenever we all went shopping and Jake would say, "I want some sushi," we were so happy to hear him express his honest feelings. Actually, I'm thinking of getting remarried. Mike told us this when Jake was 11 years old. The woman was a 23-year-old named Rachel. Rachel was 10 years younger than Mike and worked part-time at a bar. Apparently, they hit it off when Mike happened to go there for a drink. I felt uneasy about it, and that feeling only grew when Mike brought her to our house. Nice to meet you. Rachel showed up in a baggy sweatshirt, a miniskirt, and large earrings, and carried a designer bag. She was pretty, but she gave off an impression of being young and somewhat lacking in common sense. You're only 23, right? If you marry Mike, you'll suddenly become the mother of an 11-year-old. Are you ready for that? I asked her seriously. It'll work out somehow, right? I think it'll be fine. Rachel and Mike's casual exchange made my husband and I exchange worried glances. Even though we felt uneasy, we couldn't say anything, and 2 months later, Mike got remarried. Could we live in the house where Dad's brother used to live? We want to save money for the kids. 4 years ago, when my husband's brother's family moved overseas, he told my husband we could use the house however we liked, and the ownership was transferred to him. My husband planned to rent out the house, but he was too busy with work and ended up neglecting it. It would help us if you could live there. But it's a different school district, so Jake would have to transfer. It's fine. He'll get used to the new school quickly. And so, they moved into the house owned by my husband, about an hour's drive from us, and started their life as a family of 3. Until then, I had seen Jake almost every day, but since Rachel quit her job and became a full-time homemaker, I no longer needed to visit, and my chances to see Jake dwindled. Even so, Mike brought Jake to our house about 3 times a month. Although it was because Mike and Rachel wanted to go out alone, which made me feel a bit conflicted, we were still happy to spend time with Jake. On the other hand, Jake seemed to be having a hard time getting used to Mike and Rachel, which worried us. Jake, are you enjoying your new life?
Yeah,
It's fun. I was sad about changing schools, but I've already made new friends. It must have been tough to transfer schools just because of his parents. I wanted to ask about his relationship with Rachel, but I felt hesitant to mention her name directly, so I didn't ask anything more. I see. All right then. How about we go to the sushi restaurant today? Really?
yay!
I'm going to eat lots of tuna. Seeing Jake's carefree smile made me feel a little relieved. A year later, Emma was born. Mike and Rachel started asking us for money with reasons like, we want to do Emma's blessing, we want to do her first meal ceremony, on every occasion. This never happened when Jake was born. I felt a bit uneasy about it, but for the sake of little Emma and to give Jake some pocket money too, I sent them more money every time they asked. Once Emma could hold her head up, Mike and Rachel frequently brought both kids to stay with us. Sometimes you just need a break to stay sane. You guys must be happy to spend so much time with your grandkids. After dropping off the kids at the door, Mike and Rachel quickly left. Watching them leave like that gave me mixed feelings, but when I went back inside and saw Jake, Emma, and my husband playing happily together, I couldn't help but smile. Jake adored his much younger sister and doted on Emma. Emma also seemed to have complete trust in Jake. Even when she was upset and crying, Jake could soothe her with a gentle song. We were worried about Mike and Rachel, but spending time with our grandchildren made us very happy. However, after Emma's first birthday, Jake and Emma suddenly stopped coming to our house. Maybe Jake was busy with middle school. Thinking this, I called Mike. I'll be in your area this Sunday. Do you mind if I stop by to see you all? Let me check with Rachel first. He ended the call awkwardly, and later I got a brief text saying, we have plans, so it won't work. I kept trying to contact Mike and Rachel, but they always had some excuse, and we never got to see Jake or Emma. Did I say something rude? I thought I had always been willing to help with money or taking care of the grandkids whenever they asked. All we could do was hope that Jake and Emma were happy. 3 years passed. Jake was now a freshman in high school, and Emma was 4 years old. Not being able to see my grandchildren had become the norm. Then one day, I saw Jake. That day, I had gone to see a movie in the neighboring town with a friend. Around 5 p.m., while waiting at the bus stop, a bike passed by, and it was Jake. He was wearing a square backpack with the name of a Chinese restaurant on it, and it looked like he was making deliveries. Jake. I called out his name in surprise, but Jake didn't turn around. Are you sure it wasn't someone else? I told my husband about it as soon as I got home, but he was skeptical. There's no way I'd mistake our grandson's face. But a high schooler doing delivery work. Is Mike not making enough income? I don't know. We've been sending $500 each for the grandkids' birthdays, but maybe that's not enough for Jake? I had assumed that Mike's family was living happily without us knowing, but seeing Jake that day made my anxiety spike. Then, 2 weeks later, something shocking happened. It was raining cats and dogs. They've issued a heavy rain and thunderstorm warning starting this afternoon. Be careful when you come home from work. As usual, my husband said this while reading the newspaper over breakfast. Just as he predicted, the weather turned nasty in the afternoon. When my husband came home around 8 p.m., he was soaked. The heavy rain was pounding on the roof, making it harder to hear the TV than usual. Shall we go to bed soon? Just as we were about to head to the bedroom, the doorbell rang. Who could it be at this hour? I checked the monitor, and to my surprise, it was Jake, looking down. Hey. It's Jake. We hurried to open the front door. There stood Jake, completely soaked. Jake. What are you doing here at this hour? Jake, still looking down, turned around. Is Emma with you too? I took Emma, who had been asleep on Jake's back, into my arms. Please, give Emma some dinner and let her stay the night. Jake muttered this, rain dripping from his bangs. Just come inside for now. I brought Emma inside, while my husband led Jake into the house. Emma was wearing a raincoat, and it seemed that Jake had shielded her with an umbrella, sacrificing himself. Despite the heavy rain, she wasn't wet at all. Since Emma was peacefully sleeping, we decided to let her rest in the bedroom. Meanwhile, we sent Jake straight to the bathroom to warm up. During that, I prepared a warm meal. These are your grandpa's clothes, so they might be a bit big, but I guess not. Jake, you've grown so much since I last saw you. Come to think of it, because of the rush earlier, I hadn't noticed how much Emma, who was just a baby, had grown as well. We smiled at how much our grandchildren had grown after 3 years. But unlike us, Jake didn't touch the meal we had prepared and kept his head down. Jake, can you tell us what happened? Jake briefly looked up but quickly looked away when our eyes met. Jake, we won't understand anything if you stay silent. My husband, losing patience with Jake's behavior, spoke more sternly. Jake flinched, then slowly began to speak in a barely audible voice. My mom doesn't like me. According to Jake, Rachel never really cared for him from the start. Even so, Jake was happy to have a mom and tried hard to get Rachel to like him. But after Emma was born, Rachel's attitude towards Jake grew even colder. I really love Emma. She's my sister, after all. But my mom keeps telling me I'm not taking care of you because we're not related by blood. And my dad just sides with her and never helps me. Hearing these revelations made my heart ache. I had assumed they were living happily as a family of 4. I deeply regretted my naive assumptions. Why didn't you come to Grandma's house sooner? Because I was told that you and Grandpa didn't like us. Jake started to cry. According to Jake, Rachel told him that the reason we stopped visiting, even though we used to come often, was because we didn't want to take care of the grandkids anymore. That's not true. Rachel was the one who kept them from seeing us. I wanted to argue, but Jake continued speaking through his tears. Today, Mom didn't make me dinner. Then Emma scolded her for it. Rachel got angry that her own daughter took Jake's side and felt betrayed, so she kicked both Jake and Emma out into the heavy rain. I'm surprised you still remembered where our house is. My husband patted Jake on the head. After I bought an umbrella and a raincoat for Emma, I ran out of money. I took the train as far as I could, and then I walked the rest of the way. That's why it got so late. I'm sorry. No, Jake, you don't need to apologize. I'll just be a burden if I stay. Please take care of Emma. With that, Jake stood up and bolted for the door. Hey. My husband tried to stop him, but Jake, now as tall as him, shook him off. Don't be ridiculous. I can't take care of such a nuisance. Furious, my husband spat out those words, chased after Jake again, and grabbed him in a bear hug. No, please, at least take care of Emma. Jake stopped resisting and hung his head low. I caught up and took Jake from my husband, gently rubbing his back as I spoke. Jake, you've misunderstood. We've always wanted to see you and Emma, but Mike and Rachel wouldn't let us. What? Jake finally looked me straight in the eyes. I explained how we had tried many times to visit, and since we couldn't see you, we sent money for your birthdays instead. I told Jake everything that had happened over the past 3 years to clear up the misunderstanding. Jake looked shocked the entire time. But he seemed to believe my words, and his expression softened, the look of despair replaced by relief. I didn't know anything, not about the money either. I'm sure Mom is using it for herself. So that's what's been happening. I was stunned. Jake went on to explain that while his high school tuition was barely covered, he didn't receive any money for lunch or school supplies, so he had to work part-time to make ends meet. Is that a part-time job at the Chinese restaurant? You knew? I thought I saw you making deliveries the other day. I tried to call out to you, but you rode past on your bike, so I wasn't sure. Jake nodded sadly. My mom stopped making dinner for me when I started high school. The restaurant gives me a staff meal, so it saves money. But today, my shift got cancelled, and sure enough, there was no dinner for me at home. That's when Emma stood up for me. Tears welled up in Jake's eyes again. It's going to be okay, now. I gently rubbed Jake's back. Was Mike cold to you too? My husband asked, trying to control his anger.
Yeah.
He just does whatever she says. I liked my first mom. Dad used to be kind back then too. With that, Jake burst into tears. My husband buried his head in his hands. For a while, the only sound in the house was Jake's crying, but as time passed and he began to calm down, my husband spoke. Jake, when I said don't be ridiculous earlier, that was directed at Mike and Rachel. Your grandma and I will absolutely protect you and Emma. That's right. You don't have to worry about anything anymore. Oh, did Emma wake up? I glanced over at the living room door and saw Emma peeking out from behind the wall, looking cautious. Emma, do you remember Grandpa and Grandma? Emma shook her head vigorously. My husband and I exchanged a wry smile. That's right, the last time we saw you was on your first birthday. Look. I showed her a photo from her first birthday that we had displayed, and her face instantly lit up. Then Emma ran over to Jake. Jake. What's up? I'm hungry. My husband and I exchanged glances again, this time smiling. All right, I'll heat the food up again, so you two eat as much as you want. Jake, why don't you serve Emma? You know her best. Thanks to Emma waking up, a small smile returned to Jake's face. The two of them ate heartily, and soon after, they were peacefully asleep together in bed. Watching their innocent sleeping faces, I fought back tears. They've been through so much, but from now on, we have to protect Jake and Emma no matter what. My husband and I quietly made up our minds and got into the car. Of course, we headed straight to Mike's house. The lights were still on inside, and when we rang the doorbell, Mike answered. Wait a minute. Ignoring Mike's attempt to stop us, we barged into the house. Inside, there were several empty beer cans on the table, and Rachel was slouched on the couch, laughing as she watched TV with a beer in hand. Emily, John, what's going on? What do you mean, what's going on? Think about what you've done. Rachel flinched at my husband's angry voice. At first, Rachel seemed surprised, but she put down her beer, straightened up, and glared at us sharply. So Jake and Emma went to your place. They showed up soaking wet. It seems you lied, telling Jake that we hated him. And the money we gave you as gifts for our grandchildren? It never reached them. What's your explanation for that? We're their parents. This doesn't concern you. Mike sat down next to Rachel, and together they glared at us. They accused us of being unreasonable for believing everything Jake said. We have custody of Jake and Emma, so we don't need anyone else meddling. We've raised them properly so far. Properly? You've been treating Jake like a burden. Just then, the doorbell rang. Who could it be now? When Mike grumbled and opened the door, he was surprised to see two police officers standing there. That's right. I explained the situation to the police while we were in the car, and they had come to Mike's house. The police officers entered the house without hesitation and began looking for the children. Where are Jake and Emma in this heavy rain? Of course, neither Mike nor Rachel could answer that question. I explained the day's events in detail in front of everyone. We need to conduct an investigation. Mike and Rachel, please come with us to the station. And so, they were taken to the police station. The next day, we were also called to the police station for questioning. Jake was questioned alone, but since Emma was still young, I was allowed to stay with her. Dad and Mom ignore my brother. They don't even make him dinner. My brother goes to school during the day and works at night. He's always so busy and tired. I want someone to help him. 4-year-old Emma struggled to find the right words but managed to explain. She was small, but even she was hurt by the dysfunctional family situation. Tears welled up in my eyes. Emma looked at me curiously. Why are you crying? My preschool teacher said the police officers are heroes, so it's okay. They'll help us. You're right. Everything's going to be okay now. Thank you so much for helping us. Emma said this to the police officer with a big smile. After our grandchildren were questioned, it was our turn to be called in. Regarding the future of your grandchildren, we told them that we didn't want to return Jake and Emma to their parents and that we intended to take full responsibility of raising our 2 grandchildren. The police advised us to consult a lawyer. Following their advice, we consulted a lawyer my husband knew. 5 days later, the lawyer went to speak with Mike and Rachel while they were in custody. The lawyer discussed the following 4 points with them. First, we intended to adopt Jake and Emma, thereby gaining custody of them. Second, Mike and Rachel would be prohibited from contacting Jake and Emma ever again. Third, we would no longer provide any financial support. Fourth, the house they were living in was scheduled for demolition next month, so they had to vacate immediately. When they heard this, Mike and Rachel were reportedly furious. Do they not have any parental love? When Mike shouted this, the lawyer calmly replied. Jake is your biological son, isn't he? Do you really have the right to talk about parental love after treating him so cruelly? Faced with this reasonable argument, Mike reportedly fell silent. After that, we successfully adopted Jake and Emma and raised them with care. Peaceful days have followed since. Mike repeatedly contacted us to oppose the demolition of the house, but the work went ahead as scheduled. When the house was demolished in front of him, Mike reportedly collapsed to his knees and couldn't stand for a while. Additionally, rumors of the abuse spread at his workplace, and Mike started skipping work without permission. Eventually, he was fired. As a result, Mike and Rachel were left penniless. They seemed to be living quietly somewhere for a while, but then one day, Mike came to me asking for help. If you keep bothering us, I'll report you to the police. After I said that, he became quiet, as if he had given up. Since then, I haven't heard anything about them. On the other hand, Jake and Emma were initially tense when they started living with us, but spending time together gradually eased that tension. Jake quit his part-time job and now focuses on his studies and school activities. He goes to school happily every day. Grandpa, what time are we leaving tomorrow? High tide is at 8 a.m., so we're leaving at 3 a.m. If I'm not up, wake me up. What's that supposed to mean? After retiring, my husband started fishing with Jake. They haven't caught any tuna, but they've caught squid, sea bream, flounder, and many other types of fish, and the two of them seem completely hooked on fishing. So, with that said, my husband stood beside me with his hands together. All right, you want to bring breakfast with you, right? Sandwiches will do, I assume? Of course, thank you. Just then, Emma came toddling over, puffing out her cheeks. If you're leaving at 3 a.m., what time does Grandma have to make breakfast? That's too much for her. She's quite the little lady. At just 5 years old, Emma is the star of our home and my biggest supporter. Sorry. I'll do it myself next time. I'll catch your favorite squid, Emma. Really?
Yay!
Grandpa and Jake, do your best. It's so cute how easily she's swayed by something like that. I used to worry about having nothing to do in retirement, but that worry is long gone. Thanks to Jake and Emma, our days are filled with joy and excitement. I don't know if the wounds in their hearts will ever fully heal. But I just hope that Jake and Emma can feel that this is a place where we can all laugh together as a family, a place they can always come back to and feel safe.